Explain to me how rounding up illegals with military gear and facial recognition isn't just beta testing for rounding up you later.
Dad, that's crazy. They're just enforcing the law. My friend Javier says it's about safety and... Wait, is this about the taco trucks again?
Safety, of course. The state's primary concern. Not power, control, or perfecting its human farming techniques. How utterly naive, you state-worshipping nugget.
That's a paranoid leak. Border security uses advanced tools because it's a complex logistical problem.
A logistical problem. Perfect. So, phase 1, the beta test. Facial recognition, license plate tracking, social media scraping, all field tested on a group with no lawyers and a public that's been told to cheer.
Former contractor can confirm the targeting matrix we built wasn't just for border crossers. It was a pre-crime algorithm looking for a digital signature, who you call, what you send money for, where you pray, debug it on aliens, deploy it on citizens.
Okay, but they still broke the rules. You can't just ignore the rules.
And there it is. Phase 2, conditioning the herd. They don't teach you to hate a person. They teach you to hate a category. Illegal, not Juan looking for work. Alien, not Maria with 2 kids. Dehumanize the label, and you'll justify anything done to the human.
Okay, that kid thing is messed up, but it's still the law.
That's the point, Chris. Immigration violation is a paperwork crime, a civil offense. So why the SWAT teams? Why the cages? They're deliberately blurring the line between an admin error and a felony. Once that line is gone, what's next? Your medical choice, your blog posts, all just administrative non-compliance.
So you're saying the legal framework they're building for immigrants sets the precedent for everyone?
It's the blueprint. Right now, it's the criminal alien. Next, it's the criminal anti-vaxxer. Then, the criminal misinformationist. The system, the detention logistics, the expedited removal courts. It's all built. They just swap the label on the intake form.
So when they come for someone I don't like, I'll already be okay with it?
The soggy biscuit achieves a thought. You've been anesthetized. You've been trained to see the boot and think it's for the rule breakers. You won't question it until it's stomping on your own face.
And by then, questioning it will be the new administrative violation.
You're not watching a policy debate. You're watching a live software update for the police state. They're stress testing the tech, conditioning the user base, and writing the legal code. And you, the good citizen, are sitting there cheering for the beta test, never realizing you're next on the compatibility list.
Two of the largest private surveillance networks in America just teamed up. Amazon's Ring and Flock Safety have officially partnered. Here's what that means. The AI-powered cameras that track your car on the street can now ask your neighbor's Ring doorbell for video of you. They're connecting the street to your front door, creating one massive, searchable surveillance network for the police. And this isn't theory. 404 Media has already reported that ICE and the Secret Service have access to Flock's network. Now that network is about to get millions of new cameras from Ring. Remember, Ring was already fined $5.8 million by the FTC because its employees were caught spying on customers' private videos. You bought that doorbell to keep strangers out. Now it's letting federal agents in.
The next age verification change to the internet in Australia starts tomorrow, and unlike the social media ban,
this law applies to everybody.
From tomorrow, age verification rules are going to apply to online search. If you sign into your account and you're detected as under 18, you're going to be asked to prove your age using government ID, credit card checks, or facial recognition. You can still search without logging in, but content will be blurred by default in child-friendly mode. And this is just the beginning. More age verification is coming in the new year. AI chatbots like ChatGPT, video games, and eventually the entire App Store will be forced to comply by mid-2026. And that's why I've teamed up with Citizen Go to launch a national campaign which will be put directly to the Communications Minister in the new year. Click the link below, go to stopdigitalcontrol.com, add your name to the petition, and share this video as far as possible.
Surprisingly, the blueprint for transformation is woven into the United Nations Agenda 2030, ostensibly a vision for a better world.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I say again that taken together, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Climate Agreement provide humanity with a master plan for a sustainable way of life on this planet.
New York City, late September 2024. The setting for the United Nations Summit of the Future, a gathering of member nations to reinforce and accelerate Agenda 2030 and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. The plan has a broad spectrum and is full of worthy ambition. But behind those deliberately bright and colourful boxes lies a darker theme, a shifting of influence and potentially power towards unelected world bodies. The strategy goes back well into the last century, and pressure is growing, because the goals are far behind targets set at the grand relaunching in 2015.
17 inspiring Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Our aim is clear, our mission is possible, and our destination is in our sights.
To end poverty and hunger, address inequality, protect our planet, and build a life of dignity for all.
It appears to be a noble and ambitious program for a perfect world. And who could argue with those aspirations? But critics insist the goals are not what they seem. Alex Newman is a journalist and broadcaster who's been investigating the issue for 15 years. He has his own way of interpreting the rhetoric.
You have to learn to speak what I call UNEs. You have to know what the terms mean if you want to truly understand what is being discussed. When they talk about peacekeeping forces or the peacekeeping role of the United Nations, they're actually talking about the war-making capabilities of the United Nations. So you have this Orwellian doublespeak. When they talk about transparency, more often than not, they're talking about eliminating your privacy. Human rights is another very, very good example. They make very clear in this document that your rights can be restricted under the guise of public order or morality or whatever the case may be. And so they're saying, here's your rights, but by the way, they're not really rights. We can revoke them at any time. The UN is filled with contradictions like this. Like, for example, when they talk about gender equality, right? A normal person in the Western world thinks gender equality means a woman has a right to earn money, to own property, to have all the rights and privileges that a man would have. When you look at the individuals who lead this movement within the UN, you're talking about radical feminists. You're talking about people who are very interested in dissolving the nuclear family. As you dig into these goals, it's very clear we're dealing with something far more nefarious. Once you look past the marketing slogans, the kind of warm and fuzzy, we're going to end hunger, which again is just window dressing, you realize that this is actually a blank check for totalitarian global control.
Author and campaigner, the late Rosa Koire, called out the plan more than a decade ago.
It is the biggest public relations scam in the history of the world. But it's far more than that. It's a blueprint. It is the action plan to inventory and control all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all information, all energy, all means of production, and all human beings in the world.
Independent journalist Michael Schellenberger has been digging into the digital ID issue. He just released a lengthy piece on this on his Substack called Public. He joins us now with his thoughts. Michael, look, the argument is it's like it'll help thwart illegal immigration, ID fraud, streamline healthcare services. Sounds fantastic. What the heck's the problem?
Right. Hey, great to be with you, Laura. Yeah, I mean, another conspiracy theory that has started coming true. I mean, we saw this announcement in September. It took everybody by surprise. The World Economic Forum had been pushing digital IDs, the United Nations, the European Union, Britain. Of course, the really terrifying example is China, which uses digital IDs and a social credit score to control speech and to control what people think and say online. I mean, it could come in a lot of different ways. They'll start voluntary, then they'll make it mandatory. They'll have rewards, and then they'll have punishments. It's quite terrifying. And when you just listen to what the advocates for digital IDs say, it's terrifying. And, you know, Laura, one thing I learned from this last round of investigations is that this is a huge cybersecurity threat. The idea that, I mean, imagine if you get hacked in one of the many websites that you log into. Imagine everything suddenly being hacked because it's all centralized in a single place. That cybersecurity threat alone ought to be enough to kill the digital ID. But again, this is potentially digital totalitarianism.
A dangerous subversive elite has managed to infiltrate the highest levels of Western institutions and governments to implement the criminal plan of the Agenda 2030. In many self-proclaimed democratic states, the voices denouncing this global coup are being silenced through censorship, intimidation, psychiatrization, and even arrest. Among the victims of the totalitarian regime quietly establishing itself in Europe, Canada, Australia, and other vassal nations of the United Nations, NATO, World Health Organization, and World Economic Forum, all private entities funded by the same powers, is lawyer Rainer Fulmich, unjustly imprisoned and still awaiting for a fair trial. His crime is having dared to speak the truth in a world of criminal lies. I call on Catholics and all people of goodwill to raise their voices in defense of those persecuted by the globalist regime. It is not Attorney Fulmich who should be imprisoned, but those who committed the greatest crime ever against humanity: Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, George Soros, Ursula von der Leyen, Albert Bourla, and all their accomplices and emissaries, especially those in institutional positions. Free Rainer Fulmich.
Remember when we used to own things? Your music lived in your CD case, your photos were printed, your car, your movies, your stuff are yours. Now, you don't own. You access, you subscribe, stream, rent. Even your creativity runs on borrowed platforms. They call it the convenience era. But let's be real, it's the control era, because when you don't own something, you don't make the rules. Miss a payment, it's gone. Change the terms, too bad. Your tools freeze, your files vanish, your account resets. You think you're the user? No, you're the product. And they're selling you back to yourself. That's why in business, in brand, in life, ownership matters. Own your email list, own your systems, own your ideas, because if you don't, someone else will.
I propose putting an end to anonymity on social media. In our countries, no one can walk the streets with a mask on their face or drive a car without a license plate. No one can send packages without showing an ID or buy a hunting weapon without giving their name. And yet, we are allowing people to roam freely on social networks without linking their profiles to a real identity. This paving the way for misinformation, hate speech, and cyber harassment, because it is facilitating the use of bots and it is allowing people to act without being held accountable for their actions. Such an anomaly cannot continue. In a democracy, citizens have the right to privacy, not to anonymity or impunity, because with those two, social coexistence would be impossible. That is why I believe we must push forward the principle of pseudonymity as the functioning element of social media, and force all these platforms to link every user account to an European digital identity wallet. This way, citizens could use nicknames if they want, but in the case of a crime, public authorities would be able to connect those nicknames to real people and hold them responsible. Because accountability is not an obstacle to freedom of speech, it is an essential complement to it.
Rounding up illegals with military gear and facial recognition isn't just beta testing for rounding up you later.
Dad, that's crazy. They're just enforcing the law. My friend Javier says it's about safety and... Wait, is this about the taco trucks again?
Safety, of course. The state's primary concern. Not power, control, or perfecting its human farming techniques. How utterly naive, you state-worshipping nugget.
That's a paranoid leak. Border security uses advanced tools because it's a complex logistical problem
problem.
A logistical problem. Perfect. So, phase one, the beta test. Facial recognition, license plate tracking, social media scraping, all field tested on a group with no lawyers and a public that's been told to cheer.
Former contractor can confirm the targeting matrix we built wasn't just for border crossers. It was a pre-crime algorithm looking for a digital signature, who you call, what you send money for, where you pray, debug it on aliens, deploy it on citizens.
Okay, but they still broke the rules. You can't just ignore the rules.
And there it is, phase two, conditioning the herd. They don't teach you to hate a person, they teach you to hate a category. Illegal, not Juan looking for work. Alien, not Maria with 2 kids. Dehumanize the label, and you'll justify anything done to the human.
Okay, that kid thing is messed up, but it's still the law.
That's the point, Chris. Immigration violation is a paperwork crime, a civil offense. So why the SWAT teams? Why the cages? They're deliberately blurring the line between an admin error and a felony. Once that line is gone, what's next? Your medical choice, your blog posts, all just administrative non-compliance.
So you're saying the legal framework they're building for immigrants sets the precedent for everyone?
It's the blueprint. Right now, it's the criminal alien. Next, it's the criminal anti-vaxxer. Then, the criminal misinformationist. The system, the detention logistics, the expedited removal courts. It's all built. They just swap the label on the intake form.
So when they come for someone I don't like, I'll already be okay with it?
The soggy biscuit achieves a thought. You've been anesthetized. You've been trained to see the boot and think it's for the rule breakers. You won't question it until it's stomping on your own face.
And by then, questioning it will be the new administrative violation.
You're not watching a policy debate. You're watching a live software update for the police state. They're stress testing the tech, conditioning the user base, and writing the legal code. And you, the good citizen, are sitting there cheering for the beta test, never realizing you're next on the compatibility list.
That says it all right there. That says it all right there. That's how they get you. You know, think about 9/11. You know, a lot of your rights were stripped away from you with this whole orchestrated chaos. That's what it is, right? Methodically planned out chaos, right? Like the 9/11, and what happened after that? Well, they were putting policies and rules in place that affected not only the terrorists, but everyday citizens. And it is no different. It's still the same playbook, like they said in this clip. They just put a new name on it, but it's still the same old playbook. The problem, reaction, solution, right? So they create that problem, the Hegelian dialectic. They create that problem, and then they manufacture the way you react to the problem. They use their media, they use their agents, provocateurs, they use all kinds of means and mediums available to them to manipulate your reaction to the problem they created so it will be in their favor, right? And when you react to that, here comes the solution to that problem, right? It's like with the whole border thing. First, they open the borders, you know, and they make you look like, oh, it's the left, oh, it's the right. It's the, you know, they have you in that constant bickering about who is this, is this, that, right? Well, there's the same wing, 2 wings of the same hateful bird. How about that? Whether right or left, it's the same thing, but they give you that illusion of choice. That's what they do. So now you have to stand by this illusion of choice you think you made, right? Meanwhile, no matter which one you choose, it all goes back to the super elite, the wicked elite banking families that run the whole show. It all goes back to them, whether it's left, whether it's right, whatever it is you think you're choosing. It all goes back to them. So that's how they get you. You know, they have you thinking you're doing something moral, you're doing something ethical, you're doing something that will preserve your freedom and your way of life and all of that crap. But in reality, every move you make in this choice you think you're choosing is stripping you of this so-called rights you think you're trying to preserve, and your way of life you're trying to preserve. They're stripping you of it. You're going to wake up one morning and be like, how the hell did you get here? Well, you got here by consenting, thinking you're doing the right thing. That's how you got here, right? Next thing you know, you're living in a digital concentration camp First, they told you it was just going to be for the illegals, illegal aliens. Now it's being done on you. It's being done to you. And way worse. You see? So you got to pay attention, man. I mean, if this is the kind of life you want to live, then by all means, go right ahead. But if it's not, man, it's time for you to wake up and smell the roses, smell the coffee, because things are escalating super quick, you know? Like it says, it doesn't take a whole day to recognize sunshine. It shouldn't take you a whole day to see where all this is headed. And for you to move accordingly, to prepare your mind, to readily prepare yourself for all of this craziness. Before we go any further, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakha HaKudash. Double honors to apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth and continue to teach us this truth. Peace, salutation, shalom, shalom, shalom to all your brothers and sisters out there that are of the household of faith, beginning with 144,000 down to the men, women, and children that are allotted to be delivered in these latter days, who are all of the elect. And to the brothers that are pushing this gospel in all sincerity and in all honesty, to you all I say shalom, which means peace to you. And we need that more than ever, man, because it's about to get chaotic out here. You know, it's about to get really chaotic. So without having the mental fortitude and the spiritual know-how to deal with all of this, guess what? You'll be caught out there, man. You know, you wouldn't even survive the first wave, because there's going to be a whole lot of waves of this chaos rushing in. It wouldn't even give you time to breathe, right? It's going to be wave after wave until you are totally crushed. Your resistance is totally crushed. Your mind is totally bamboozled, man, to the point where you just want to, you would take anything to just breathe again, to have the resemblance of normalcy. You would do anything. You would take anything. You would go along with whatever it is they want you to go. This is how far they're willing to take it. They want to crush you. They want to crush your spirit. You see? So they will do anything they could ever do. That's going back to the lawlessness, the orchestrated chaos, the false flag events, the psyops. All of these things is all on deck. They will try all these things out. See? So you have to pay attention. You have to be mentally ready. Because if you're not mentally ready, spiritually ready, guess what? Hey, you can't stand. You will break, easily break. You know, I mean, it's easier said than done. A lot of people think they know, I'm woke and, you know, see what is happening. And then when you put to the test, just like in 2020, 2021, a lot of people that we're all against the whole my body, my choice, and all of that crazy stuff. All of a sudden, they broke. Oh man, I have to keep my job. I have to feed my family. I have to do this, you know. Excuses is like asshole. Everybody got one, right? So it's coming down to the wire, man. It is coming down to the wire. It's high time for you to truly pay attention of what is happening and move accordingly, law willing, right? Which brings us here real quick. In the book of Proverbs, the 28th chapter and the 15th verse, it says, as a roaring lion and a raging bear, so is a wicked ruler over the poor people. And that's exactly what we see with the banking families, the wicked elites that run the whole show. As the scripture says, as a roaring lion and a raging bear, you know what a roaring lion do, man, is ready to tear you apart. So is a raging bear, ready to devour you, just crush you, man. You know, tear you limb from limb. So that's in comparison to how, like it says here, so is the wicked ruler over the poor people. So who are the poor people? Everybody that is not in the club, quote unquote, like Judge Collins said it. It's one big club and you're not in it. So if you're not part of that club, guess what? You are poor. Excuse me. If you're not part of that club, you are poor. But you know, there's levels of the poor. You see? But that's how it is. That's how it is. So it's getting crazier to the point where these wicked rulers, they're coming after you with everything they've got. And there's going to be a lot of bloodshed for them to get where they're trying to get, for them to achieve what they're trying to achieve. There is going to be a lot of bloodshed, just like it says here. As a roaring lion and a raging bear, once a lion gets into that mindset, or a raging bear, man, they have to tear something into pieces. You know, they have to truly devour something. So this is the type of mindset the wicked elites are now, because they've been backed into a corner. All their crazy, wicked, vile actions are being made public. See, and they can't take that anymore. Especially the tiny top wearing hook nose MFers, right? If you know, you know. Especially them, they're being called out every minute of the day, so they can't take that anymore, right? So they're looking to kick this thing up a notch, you know, kick it in high gear, so to speak. So prepare to see a whole lot of crazy stuff, you know, just like you saw the woman in Minnesota get put to death by the Gestapo cops out there, ICE agents, whatever you want to call them. Well, get ready to see a whole lot of that. A whole lot of that. That is why they are normalizing it. You know, you might think, oh, I stand with ICE or whatever, you know, whatever your reasons are for you to be okay with that type of violence. Guess what? It's going to come to you next. You know? It's gonna, no matter how much you think you will consent, no matter how much, because that's one thing about the devil, they can never get enough. You can't comply your way from here to Timbuktu, from, you know, do all of that, but at the end of the day, the devil will always show his horns. So it's about to get real nasty, really nasty out here, right? Also, they can achieve the agenda, because remember, Agenda 2030 is only a couple of years away, and that the whole thing surrounding Agenda 2030 is before 2030, everything has to be up and running. Remember, it was supposed to be Agenda 2020, then they moved it further because things didn't really pan out the way they wanted it to pan out, right? So now they are not playing around anymore, which is all biblical prophecy. So prepare for this wicked rulers to be more of a roaring lion and raging bear. It's going to get crazy. It's going to get a whole lot crazier. This is the book of 2 Samuel, the 23rd chapter and the 3rd verse. It says, "The God of Israel said, the rock of Israel spake to me, he that ruleth over men must be just, ruling in the fear of God." And we don't see that with the wicked elitists that run the show, the banking families, right? Who are all Edomites, by the way. Guess what? We don't see them ruling justly. If anything, they rule wickedly. They rule through blackmail. They rule through corruption. Total corruption and bloodshed and war, right? Diseases, pestilence, chemtrails, the pollution of food, the pollution of people's minds, right? Lasciviousness, sexual immorality. This is how the wicked elites rule, right? This is the nature of the wicked. The wicked Edomites, beginning with Amalek, who are the tiny top wearing MFers. They are not the true biblical Israelites. They are imposters. Their true nationality is Amalek, who is the grandson of Esau Edom. This is who these guys are. That's why they move the way they move. They are, in the Bible, they are known as the wicked. So you're never going to have them rule in a just way, just like the scripture here is suggesting, the God of Israel is suggesting for the rulers to rule over the people justly. That is never going to happen. Forget about it. Forget about it. See? Ruling in the fear of the Most High. But that is never going to be the case with the wicked elites. You have to come to terms with that. So it doesn't matter how much you think you're going to comply to them. It doesn't matter how much you think you're going to say, yes, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and all of that. At the end of the day, you will get played. Just like the people that got played in 2020, 2021 that rolled up their sleeve to get this thing put inside of them. You know, they're paying a hefty price for that. See, this is where we are. Have to know your enemy's MO. You have to understand how they move. You have to understand how they operate. And a lot of people think you can just say, okay, and then things will go back to normal and everything will be okay. Well, Klaus Schwab himself told you that there's never going to be going back to normal. That is fantasy. He said that. Thinking that things are going to go back to normal, that is fantasy. You're living in a fantasy world, right? Things are never going to go back to the good old days. Forget about it. He said that. You see? So it doesn't matter how much you think you're going to comply. You get played. You will get played. Definitely. See? Which brings us here in the book of Psalms, the 10th chapter, and the subheading says, a prayer for the overthrow of the wicked. So there has to be a overthrow of this wickedness that's running rampant, man. Because how farther away can it go with all this craziness, man? People are complaining. People are losing their friggin' minds, crashing out all on social media, crying and just totally lost it. Why? Well, the cost of living is through the roof. People are barely surviving, let alone living, right? Let alone thriving. You see? People are barely surviving, man, and it's getting to a point where a lot of people can't take it anymore. So they come on social media and just let loose and crash out. You know, in their cars with, you know, they turn on their cameras and their phones and just lose it. Like the whole Eminem song, just lose it. Just lose it, right? Well, people are actually losing it, man. And sometimes it's funny to watch, sometimes it's heartbreaking. Why? Because of the wicked rulers. This is why we pray for the overthrow of the wicked. Because as long as they're ruling, like it says here, they're not ruling justly, guess what? People will always crash out. People will always be oppressed. You know, people will always catch the end, the very pitiful end of the deal, right? That's how it's always going to be. Because the nature of the wicked is to oppress, is to put you in some pickle. It goes on to say the first verse, why standest thou afar off, O Lord, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they've imagined. So that's what we see right now. The wicked in their pride persecuting the poor. In other words, they're like, what are you going to do about it? Yeah, we run this show. So what? So effing what? Right? All in your face with it. Yeah, our Gestapo agent just killed a woman. So what? What are you gonna do? See? That's how it is. The cost of living is through the roof. They tell you to deal with it. Pull yourself up by the bootstrap and deal with it. What a joke, right? So that's how the wicked moves. In their pride, they persecute the poor. They don't give a damn about the poor. They only care about their circle, you know. And you out there that are always co-signing this billionaires and trillionaires, guess what? You are dumber than a bag of rocks, you know, a bag of nails. You're very dumb to think for a second these billionaires, these multi-millionaires care about you. You have to be out of your mind, man. But that's, you know, everyday people out there are dumb. That's just the way it is. You know, what can you do about it? Most people are highly, highly dumb, man. They're just a waste of air, you know? They're just existing. That's it. That's why you would think for a second that some multi-millionaires, some multi-billionaires, guys like that really, really, really care about you. Who the fuck are you for them to care? That's how they feel. Look at you as going, you know, and you play into that game they play, right? Says the third verse, for the wicked boasted of his heart's desire, and blessed the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. So here they are, they tell you about their plans of what they're trying to do, their Agenda 2030, their Great Reset, their fourth industrial revolution, the whole digital system, digital infrastructure they're setting up to put you in a digital bind. You see? It's all part of that agenda, and a lot of people, they buy into it, right? And it's very oppressive. And they boast about these things, right? It used to be a time where it used to be a secret. That's why it's called the secret societies and things like that. Now, they're all out in the open with it, right? Tell you about the agendas and like, what are you going to do? This is what we're looking to achieve by 2030. We're looking to put everybody in a digital concentration camp. That is the wicked boasting of his heart's desire. The Agenda 2030, their Sustainable Development Goals, the UN agenda, all of that. The NWO, the whole shebang, right? And blessed are the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. So they give each other pats on the back and like, oh, yeah, we made that happen. Knowing very well that the Lord hates this kind of things. Because it tells you that the Most High hates oppressing the poor, persecuting the poor. You're not supposed to do that. But the wicked elitists that rule, the wicked elites that run the show, who are all Edomites, guess what? They get a kick out of oppressing the poor. You know? It turns them on. Goes on to say, the wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after the Most High. God is not in all his thoughts. You see? Look at the state of the earth. They move you further and further away from anything godly, righteous, or holy. They move you further into that satanic, occultic practices where do as thou wilt, and live in a very decadent lifestyle and just totally debase yourself. Why? Because God is not in all their thoughts. That's how the wicked operates, and they push their subjects to move in that type of way. Look at the vibration of the earth. Since the wicked are ruling, everything is very ungodly. The whole world is ungodly. See? It goes on to say, the 5th verse, his ways are always grievous. We just gone through the clips about the ways of the wicked elites, how it's always grievous. They're willing to do anything to achieve their goals, right? To achieve their aim. Mind creating a problem, even if the problem means unaliving a lot of people, putting a lot of people to death, millions and millions of people to death. Remember, George A. Godstone, as part of their plan, is to reduce the population, right? So his ways are always grievous. There's the same people that will spray chemtrails in the air, right? It's the same people that will poison the food we eat. It's coming out that the Bovaer, they're supposed to be feeding cows to reduce methane and things like that. It's nothing but poison. It's killing these animals, man. Totally jacking them up. And then we come and consume these animals. You can imagine the type of disaster, the havoc is wreaking in our bodies. And you couple that with the chemtrails that we inhale on a daily basis. You couple that with all this plastic, silicone world we live in. Everything is in what plastic or that plastic. You see? So his ways are always grievous. That is the wicked elites for you. Your ways are always grievous. No matter what it is they do, nothing is safe. Everything has been engineered, weaponized against you. Your own shampoo, your own soap that you used to take a shower, right? Your detergent you used to clean your clothes and things like. Even your clothes, they mix fabrics, and they're supposed to mix fabrics. And not only that, they give you the polyester, which you're supposed to put that on your body, because cotton, wool, those things, they have vibration, they have frequencies on them, and when you put it on, it elevates your frequencies. And then when you put mixed fabrics, it cancels each other out, and you can't get the frequency elevation it's supposed to get out of it. Like it says here, his ways are always grievous. Only the wicked would think of doing something like that. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. We can be here for, decades just giving a rundown on how the wicked operates and how grievous their ways are. It says, thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. So these are very proud individuals, these wicked elites, right, who are all Edomites. They have this God complex mentality, and they're always puffing at everybody like, what are you gonna do? Yeah, we invaded your country. What are you gonna do? Yeah, we took this from you. We take all the resources of the earth and hoard it to ourselves. What are you gonna do? We'll drop bombs on you. What? Say something. Say another mother effing thing. See, that's how the wicked do. They puffeth at them. So the scriptures clearly outlines what it is we're dealing with here. You see? Clearly outlines what it is we're dealing with. It goes on to say, he had said in his heart, I shall not be moved. I shall never be in adversity. But that's where you're wrong. Going back to the wicked elites, they think, they will never be in adversity. They will never be moved, right? Because that's their pride in them. You see? So his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. That's why you can never believe what it is they're trying to sell you. Right? No matter how it is, no matter how good it sounds, no matter how reasonable it is, you can never, because it says here, deceit. That's what it is. You're being deceived, and it's a very fraudulent thing they're doing. But they prop it up. They disguise it as something good, something beneficial for the whole entire universe. But it's never that case. Remember 2020. Remember 2020. Remember the 5th of November. Right? It goes on to say, under his tongue is mischief and vanity. In other words, when they're speaking, they're double speaking. So they might say something that it sounds convincing, be like, oh, I can get behind that. And then you find out that, man, you've been played. They didn't hold up none of the promises they made, right? That's what you get for trusting in the wicked. So he sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. They have surveillance everywhere. Now they're using all these facial recognitions and digital IDs and things like that. This is how they see that in the lurking places, lurking. They get eyes on you. No matter, every move you make, they're keeping tabs on you. Even your own phone is surveilling you, right? Your own home cameras they set up at home to catch intruders and things like that. Well, they weaponize that to use to surveil you also. Your Alexas and things like that. See? He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the secret places that he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. So at the end, when all said and done, they are all against the righteous, the poor righteous souls, who are the true biblical Israelites. Right? Your Negroes, your Latinos, and your Native Americans, for the most part. And then you have the Israelite foreigners. They don't look like your typical Israelites, but their bloodline goes back to the true biblical Israelites in the Bible. That's where you get your whole Gentiles from, because the Gentiles are just Israelite foreigners. They're not a part of the commonwealth of Israel. They're not a part of the land. They were through diaspora and things like that. They were scattered, slavery, what have you, right? Captivity, all of that. You see? So that's, in the Bible, they're usually written as the poor, because they are the true biblical Israelites. They are at the lowest totem pole. That's why they can never really be the tiny tops and the hook-nosed MFers, the banking families, because they own all the resources. So how are they the poor? You see? It goes on to say, he lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. So that's how they operate, man. They trick you. Next thing you know, you're caught in a snare that you can't get out of, right? Like the clips that I put up. At first it's using all this double speak. Oh, the aliens. Oh, the illegals. Oh, let's get them out. Next thing you know, You are now the illegal aliens. You are now the terrorists. You are now the bad guy. Like, how did I become the bad guy? Well, you weren't paying attention. That's why. You weren't paying attention, and you get what you get. See? It says he croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. So they disguise themselves to be this meek, this humanitarians. They care about life and they care about children. And 1 minute they're caring about children, the next minute they're molesting them and trafficking them, and having islands dedicated to doing all kinds of abominable things to children, right? But that's how they move, right? Oh, we have to verify age before you log into your, because the children, the children. It's all lies, man. Bull crap. It says he had said in his heart, God hath forgotten, he hideth his face, he will never see it. But that's not the case. This is just what they say to themselves to make themselves feel good about what it is they do. Because they've been doing evil for so long and thinking, man, nothing has happened to us. Maybe God is really dead. That's why the 12th verse says, Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. Wherefore that the wicked contend with God, he had said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. So the Messiah has to do something to this wicked elite. He has to. They've done enough, man. Like it goes on to say, thou hast seen it, for thou beholdest mischief and spite, and require it with thy hand. It says, the poor committeth himself unto thee, thou art the helper of the fatherless. The Most High is going to help us, Lord willing, man, from the hand of those that oppress us. It goes on to say, break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man, seek out his wickedness till thou find none. That's why they're all their evil atrocities that they've done on the planet Earth is being aired out on the internet on a daily basis. All the wicked, vile things the evil elites have done, who are all Edomites, it's all on Front Street now. See, from the prophets to the whistleblowers to, anybody that has any type of information on them. That's why they're looking to regulate the internet. It says, the Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his hand. Lord, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart, that thou wilt cause thine ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. So we're coming to a point where the men of the earth, who are the wicked elites, will no longer oppress nobody anymore. As a matter of fact, they themselves will be the ones to be oppressed. That is judgment. That is righteous judgment. The wicked elites, they're about to get their comeuppance, man. They're about to get their just due, So that's why they're scrambling, doing everything they got to do now. So prepare for more crazy 2026. With that, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahushai, B'Hashem, Rakah HaKudash. Double honors to apostles and elders of great millstone. See you next time, Lord willing. Shalom. Shalom.